Harvesting Hope Virtual Summit. I'm Hope Zvara, and I have a very special guest today, the amazing Bill Weaver. I had the pleasure of meeting Bill through Mother Trucker Yoga, so through the trucking world. He is a over-the-road trucker and a musician, and manages to try to see the good things in life despite some of the challenges that you face on a regular day basis, like your truck being broken down today. So welcome,
Yes.
Bill.
Thank you for having me, Hope. I'm honored to be here. So,
Absolutely. Why don't we just kick off this interview and just tell me and tell the listeners a little bit about yourself. What do you do? Who are you? Just kind of go from there.
well, primarily I'm a husband and a over-the-road trucker. I haul hazardous liquid up and down America's interstates. Like Hope said, I try to stay happy. Uh, Sometimes it's very hard, but I always try to find the good in stuff. But also play music at all the truck shows. Got some CDs out, all self-penned songs, and other than that, pretty dadgum boring, really.
I think we all are deep down boring, and that's okay too. But I'm curious, like, how long you've been in the trucking industry for, and how long you've been doing music? And did you find trucking before music, or music before trucking?
I've actually music before trucking because I've played music since I was probably 5 or 6 years old. But I was always fascinated with trucking as a child. And at about 14, I had a friend that started letting me shuttle trailers back and forth for him. So I didn't even have a driver's license yet. And of course, nobody would do that now unless you were on a farm, where he's in a closed off area. But all my family was law enforcement in the area, so it wasn't no chance of me getting in trouble. And I was only moving a few miles up and down the road. So I got a good early education, and I went in the Army from 85 to 89, and I've pretty much been in the truck off and on ever since then. So
I'm curious. So you were interested in music by the time you were like 5 years old. I'm always inspired because I feel like as a child we have traits and interests and tendencies that mold and shape us as adults. Like I loved to talk to people and talk and talk and talk, and I loved to draw and color and like make pretend books, and that's what I'm doing now. And so I'm curious, like as a kid, like what made you be drawn to music, and did you start playing guitar right away, and kind of how did that evolve?
I the music when I was a kid there in the early '70s, the Glenn Campbell show was on, Johnny Cash show, of course, Hee Haw, and I think Porter Wagner and Buck Owens wearing those fancy rhinestone nudie suits, and I'm 51 years old, and I told my wife the other day I still want a nudie suit. I want a nudie jacket, not the whole suit, but I'll have one before I die one of these days. I was just drawn to those guys, and I loved that country sound, that old Telecaster, Fender Telecaster twang on the guitar, and I don't know, it's just like it got into my blood, just like trucking, and of course here later in life they kind of melded together. I always listened to those old truck driving songs; they were real big in the '70s, and that's kind of what I come up on. And then as I gravitated toward trucking, it grew together, just melded together. So it's worked out pretty good so far.
I love it. I love it. So I'm curious. So many of us struggle in life, and I think we've talked about this before the interview a little bit. We all have struggles. Nobody is exempt from struggles. Is there? I'm sure there's more than one. We all have one, but is there one that comes to mind in your lifespan where it was like an aha moment, where it was like, "Whoa, I got to make a shift, or I'm not going to be happy, or like I need to make a change in my life, or what, or blank."
Well, I'll tell you, I went through a pretty big transition. I'd spent about 8 years in law enforcement and trucked while I was doing that. Had been raising two kids by myself because their mom had took off, and I'd got married to a little old gal, and our marriage fell apart. And when it did, things got pretty nasty, and I just pretty much lost everything. And not to get sob stories here, because it don't even bother me now. You realize that stuff
Yeah.
don't even hold any significance after a point. But I felt like I was just at an all-time low. I mean, I was just wishing a truck had head on me and just take me out. I couldn't process normal thought. Uh, Everything, that a little white pad there looked black to me. That's just how bad it was. And that's just what happened. I just woke up one day and I thought, man, I got to remember what Dad said. Sometimes the biggest problem you have in your life. If you go look in the mirror, you'll see it. And I'd got to a point where I'd let myself get down so low, I was creating my own tornado and standing in the middle of it at the same time. So,
I
and
think a lot of people do that and they don't realize that. And we get so caught up in our stuff and our story, like the story that we create around it, like poor me, that it is hard to look in the mirror. But I also think it's very freeing to look in the mirror. Was that kind of a little bit of a turning point for you? Because when I ever talk with you and see you, you're just so positive and you just have such a great upbeat attitude despite whatever's going on in your life. Was that kind of one of those turning points for you?
it was, and I've pretty much been like that all my life. I just allowed myself to get drugged down, dealing with lawyers and dealing with the police. Here's guys I trained that are coming to talk to me, with them being law enforcement, me not. It was like I was getting hammered in a board like a nail, you know. But I'll be honest with you, I just sit down on the river a lot and get my guitar out and write, and and sit there and all you can write your thoughts. I mean, I don't care what kind of songwriter you are. You can't force yourself to think about something else. Whatever's going on in your mind is what you're going to write. And
I love it.
And a few days after the culmination of all these events come together, I'd known Carol Ann all my life, but we wound up having our first date. And I took her to the same place down on the river that I'd sit and went through all this. And I grew up on the river. If I talk about the river a lot, there's an area we call the Armstrong Hole on the White River, Decatur, Arkansas. That's where I spent a good part of my childhood, and I find great comfort and sanctity there. And a lot of times when I'm down, I'll just go down there and stare at the water. And water's always peaceful.
I love it.
So if you don't have a river, turn on your bathtub and just
it is instant river. And so that's what you're doing in the hotel room right now. You have the river going.
My back's been hurting. I've been in that bathtub plenty. I've watched. They've lost money in here on the water bill, I've read it.
But you're sharing your personal story. I mean, you had kind of essentially two failed marriages, but without those two, you would have never have found Carol Ann in that point in your life. And how long have you been together? You've been together for a while now.
10 years now, yeah.
Yeah, happily together for 10 years, and everyone has their issues. I've been married for 12 years and we have not had, a perfect marriage. But it's good because we're both honest and, we both know where we're coming from. But I think you're a perfect example of, if you would have just been like, no one will ever want me. I have two kids. I'm broken. I have two failed marriages. Like, how will I ever find someone?
I didn't have much of. I wasn't much of a prize to win when Carol Ann and I got together. She believed in me, and her mom believed in me. God rest her soul. And I don't know why. Truly a gift from God. And the one thing I've learned to realize is all the bad things that's happened in my life were so horrible to go through at the time, molded what's happened right now. And we're doing. We've got a great marriage, great strong marriage. We've got a great place, a great life altogether. We're doing all right financially. We're not well off, but we're not living in the alley either. And we can help some charities when we want to, and it always feels good to me to help others. And I think anytime people give of themselves, even if it's time playing for free at a charity event or something, I think it does something to you mentally to know that you help somebody.
I agree. And I think sometimes too, maybe you feel this way. Sometimes just before I give, I'm always like, like I want to hold on tighter. And then it's like, no hope. Like, this is why you're doing what you're doing. And then you give, and it's like, you get this biggest gift back that I can't even explain it unless you've given. And I know, you know what I'm talking about. It's like, it comes back to you tenfold. And just to watch the people that you've given whatever it was to is just it's inspiring. And it makes you a softer heart, a better person. So I'm curious. I kind of follow the philosophy that little steps, little bites, little changes in life, when you can do them consistently, they add up to a bigger change in the long run than the New Year's resolution. I'm going to go to the gym 5 days a week. You do that for 2 weeks and then you never go again. And then you go, oh, I guess it's not for me. I'm curious if there has been any point in your life where you've kind of done a little bite or you've made a little change that had a big impact.
I have, and if you'll notice on Facebook, a lot of times I'll post to every few days to shake a stranger's hand, try to make a new friend, because somebody out there right now is going through the worst thing you've ever been through. And you know, maybe maybe you're out here and you're fixing to lose your house because you hadn't been able to make a house payment, lost your job. But the person you run across, maybe they're fixing to get their lights cut off at their house, but they're all right on their house. What they're going through is every bit as big a deal to them as what you're going through, and we forget that. We focus on our own lives. And I find if you're considerate of other people's feelings, uh, I think that's manning up. Whether you're male or female, I think that's manning up and just trying to take care of those around you. And usually, it always comes back to you somehow. That person might be thinking about suicide. Just you. I always like to tell the story. A lot of people don't realize when the Oklahoma City federal building, the Alfred Murrah building, was blown up. Those men had intended on blowing up the federal building at Little Rock, Arkansas.
Wow, I didn't know that.
And Nichols went in there to get his mom some flowers in a flower shop down below the federal building. And the woman in there was so nice to him. He came out there and told McVeigh, he said, I can't. He said, I met that woman. She was so sweet. He said, we're going to have to do it somewhere else. And they
I
went
did not know
to
this.
Oklahoma City. Yeah, that's a very little known story because our government don't really want that out there a lot. But yeah, that's true. That's true fact. And just
Wow.
one woman. Now, I'm not saying that, it's a good thing it didn't happen at Little Rock. Horrible thing that happened at Oklahoma City. But it made that much of a difference. Now, what if the same thing would have happened at Oklahoma City? Maybe they would have wound up giving up.
Yeah.
On their horrible deed,
That little dose of kindness towards people. I love that. And just, yeah, the reminder that you said, everyone's going through, something different, but it's the same amount of intensity, or it's just as big of a deal as your thing is to them. I just love that perspective, because that's so essential, because we get so caught up in our stuff, and our stuff is so much more important. It's such a bigger priority, and we totally alienate ourselves from everybody too, and that's not healthy either. How is that for a truck driver? Because one of the biggest challenges as an outsider is, like, you guys don't see people. I mean, it's a lonely job at times. Like, how do you handle that?
I write when I stop. Of course, these cell phones are a godsend because we can talk to
Yes.
somebody going down the road now. But social media is good for that. Being able to talk to friends and family on the phone, and I live on this phone going up and down the road, and of course we can video chat with people now. So it's not the same as the physical interaction, but it's a whole lot better than it used to be. 'Cause back when I started, I remember standing in lines at roadside parks with a bank of payphones, a bunch of drivers trying to
Oh my
call
gosh.
dispatch and call their wives, and you had to keep your time very limited. Everybody had to call collect, and then you had to keep your time limited because the line of people were waiting on you. And then they came out with a calling card, and my God, what a change! That was a technological miracle.
I remember
And
that. I was in high school. I was like, yes.
yeah, it was the greatest thing ever. And then, man, when the cell phone come out, we're like, this is to catch me out. I had them old bag phones that you could talk to the moon on, weighed 100 pounds, but you could talk anywhere on them.
I think
But
this is a great moment to remind how grateful we are for, I mean, sometimes technology, I feel like, is a blessing and a curse, but in this regards, it's definitely a blessing, because it's keeping you connected to your family. It's part of your sanity, I would imagine.
oh yeah,
And just kind of keeping you in touch, and not, because I know for me, part of my job is I'm working in front of a computer a lot now, and all of a sudden I realize I've not talked to a human being all day long. And all of a sudden I kind of feel like you get in this bubble of, like, well, why should I? And then it's like, no, I kind of need human contact. That's kind of an important thing.
yeah. You don't want to become too much of a loner. And I've always said that, and one of my songs even says it, we're all a bunch of loners that ain't worth a damn it being alone. Because I don't care who you are, you need contact, physical contact with people.
I agree. I agree. So I'm curious, what is one thing that you do every single day, or maybe not every day, that is essential to your happiness? That if you would say, I do this because I want to stay happy, or it helps me stay happy.
Oh, I make it a point to try to strike up a conversation with somebody, shake their hands, introduce myself, and just make a friend, because you don't know. you're going to, something in your lives are going to cross paths with each other again. It might be 20 years down the road, but you'll run across each other again.
And you
I
never
run
know
into
who
a
that
guy
person is.
I run into a guy at this hotel the other night. He stayed 2 rooms down. He just left the other night, but he knew who I was. We were Facebook friends, and I didn't know who he was. I recognized his name. We got talking. We're sitting here laughing about it. But anyways, he got him a new CD. So
Awesome.
we
That's
sit over
great.
here and had a blast, just sitting and talking. But
Now, do you have like what is your routine like on a daily basis, Bill? I mean, what do you do when you get up? And I mean, I know writing and getting on the guitar. Like, if you guys aren't friends with him or don't follow him on Facebook, you guys need to, because like you are on social media. Just like I'll turn you on. I'm like, oh, what do I want to listen to today? And you're just strumming along, singing. Like, what is your day like to keep that positive attitude and to kind of just keep doing Bill?
I just uh, I just look around me and I see so much. I see so many people that are downtrodden. I see so many people that try and fail, and they come back and try and fail. And I'll go back to if we got time. I'll go back a little bit on this. When I was talking about sitting down by the river before Caroline and I had our first date, uh, I strongly believe in God. Uh, I don't go to church, but I do strongly believe in God. Well, I sit and I had a pistol in my truck, and I was just done. I just thought I pulled my pickup around different because I'd worked a lot of suicides from being in law enforcement, and I parked where I would hope an adult would find me, because a lot of children would come down to that area sometimes. I didn't want a child seeing the gruesome sight that would be me. And there was a sycamore tree in front of me, actually a stand of them. But I seen a little gray squirrel run up that sycamore tree, and I was sitting there crying and praying. And 3 red squirrels run up there and attacked him and just whipped the hell out of him, knocked him off that tree. He ran back up. They whooped him again. He just kept running up there and fighting and fighting. And I got to laughing at that gray squirrel, and I thought, man, won't you just give up? They're whooping your ass. Here directly, all them red squirrels were gone, and that bloody little old gray squirrel was just sitting up there just as proud. And he looked at me, and I thought, you know what, God just put on that show and used that sycamore tree for the stage. And
Wow.
I was that little gray squirrel, and I sat there and got to crying, and I wrote an 11 legal page long poem about that. 11 pages on a legal pad. And
Wow.
that's really what turned me around to realizing it's just God telling me, hey, Bill, you're gonna win. Just keep fighting. 2 days later, Caroline and I had our first date, and I've not looked back. 2 days
Two
later.
days later?
2 days later, and I never seen it coming. It wasn't planned at that time. It's just, and we'd known each other basically all our adult lives, but we just wound up meeting up, and whatever reason, I suckered her into a date with me. It grew from there. But
Oh
I've
my
never really
God.
put that story out in the public. But yeah, I had gotten down that low, and
Wow. What a fantastic story and a great reminder. And red squirrels are really mean. Um, we have red
those
squirrels in our backyard and they're so mean to the gray squirrels. But it's kind of one of those, I mean, I'm a very like signs. I mean, I don't read into the point where I'm like crazy person, but like I do believe that God puts those instances in front of us to kind of say, hey, like I know exactly what's going on. Like I totally see what's going on. Like, let's get it together. Like you can do this. That is fantastic.
that
That
was
is
a
fantastic.
pretty life changing moment. But I every day of my life since then, I've thought somebody out here is going through that same thing, and they can't speak out about it. You can't talk about it publicly while you're going through it. People think you're nuts. I've got a dear friend right now that's going through a horrible, nasty divorce, and he's just mentally he's having a time with it. And to hear him talk, you'd just think he's a nut. But I know who he is, and I know how he is. And his brain can't process everything going on right now. So the best thing you can do is be an ear, tell people you love them, shake their hand, and mean it.
Hmm.
Don't ever ask somebody how they're doing just in passing. Mean it, because they might need to stop and tell you how they're doing. And if they do, you need to listen, because there's a reason.
And that's just like the code of being a decent human being. I
You
mean,
bet.
imagine when we start doing that a little bit more, like how impactful that will be.
I thought
It's
that.
it's
Hey, hold on.
you told me
Just,
it would
just my
happen.
trash and towels and some coffee, hun. Sorry about that, Hope.
No, you told me it would happen. For
Yeah,
those of you
I
that are
told you that.
watching, he's like definitely the help is gonna come and knock on the door. So
Yeah, timing.
oh, I love it. I love it. All right, let's see if we can unfreeze you here, Bill. Come on. There we go.
We froze up. There we go.
That's all right. We can cut that
All
out.
right.
Okay. I'm curious because so in the online business world, having a coach is really popular, and when you're going through a hard time, you have a counselor, and you might invest in yourself. You know, however, wait, how do you invest in yourself to keep you a priority? And I know sometimes when I say that to people, like they get really uncomfortable. Like, why would I ever, give to myself at that degree? But how do you invest in yourself on a daily, weekly, yearly basis?
I just I mainly have to learn to tell myself I'm proud of everything that we do. Uh, you have to be proud, and you work hard out here. You've got a reason to be proud of everything you've acquired, and it's like this music. I've lived a dream with it that most musicians will never get to live. If it all stopped right now, I have no right to complain at all, and I'm so honored by that. And I just look at it that way, and I just keep on keeping on because I'm gonna have bad days. I'm sitting in a hotel right now that's costing a ridiculous amount of money. They're working on my truck's going to cost a ridiculous amount of money. I'm losing days of work that's costing a ridiculous amount of money, but next week will be different.
That's an
It'll
attitude.
be
That's an
someone else
attitude everyone
broken
should
down.
have.
So just got to deal with it. It's just life. I mean, it's that old commercial said life comes at you fast. It's no doubt very true.
I love it. Okay. What does living your best life mean to you? Like if I asked you, Bill, tell me about what living your best life means to you, how would you respond?
I think just being honest with people, most of all, being honest with yourself.
Mm,
Uh, just learning to be honest with yourself and admit your failures, admit your mistakes, and don't be ashamed of them. Just be proud of them. They're learning experiences. No
it's a
no
great
different than
perspective.
reading a great novel. There's many lessons in reading. So
And I always like
anyway,
to think nobody wants to read a book on
thank
someone
you, man.
about how their life was so easy.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, if it's not for the trials and struggles, and if you look at anybody successful, Steve Jobs, Bill Gates, all these guys, way politically different than me, but great heroes of mine. Warren Buffett, Johnny Carson, many of our great actors, especially your great comedians, if you'll watch.
Oh my gosh,
They've
yes.
all they've all had tough lives, and they're what they do for a living is kind of a manifestation of their way of dealing with what they went through. And I think when you can do that, it just makes you stronger and stronger. And then you turn that into something that positively impacts all those around you.
Isn't that the basis of every songwriter's greatest hits? Is like
You
the
bet.
tragedies and the challenges that come with life. And is that kind of how you write your songs? It's kind of like the
You
way for you to like get your feelings out and
you
kind
bet.
of express them.
Anytime I write it down, whether it turns out good or not, which most of them don't. I mean, what you hear on CDs or the picks of the litter, but anytime I write something down, it gives me a different perspective on it. But I'll give you for instance, you take a great beautiful man like Robin Williams was. Nobody would have ever dreamed he would die of suicide. And if somebody looked at him as a human being instead of Robin Williams, sometime the week he done that, he might have had a different train of thought. But he was Robin Williams, funny man, comedian, famous. If somebody that didn't know him, didn't recognize him, would have just walked up and shook his hand and just struck up conversation, offered him a cigarette, stood there in front of a hotel talking, might have changed his whole perspective.
Which
because
goes
he had
back to
every,
your whole point of like be kind to
yeah,
everybody and
yeah,
talk to everybody and treat everybody, you know, with respect.
you bet, you bet. And I
Um,
stand by that.
and you're a living example of that, and it's a great reminder. And the one thing I love about it is that it costs no money. You don't need any formal training for it. It's called just being a decent human being, and the whole idea that you get what you give. You know, you give out kindness and generosity and you know, a heartfelt handshake and mean it. That's exactly what you're going to get back, and usually exactly how you need it.
You bet. And, it's like I always said, you know, being nice don't cost anything. Praying for somebody don't cost anything. And I'm not trying to sound real religious. I've got
No,
my
these are
religious
basic
beliefs.
things, though.
Yeah, if people don't want to believe in God, that's their right out here to do that. I think it's a mistake. That's opinion. So,
Yeah. But at the same point, I always say when someone's about to lose their house, they got cancer, they're about to lose their job, what do? They pray. They pray to God for help. You know,
and start asking others to. Yeah,
you know,
every time.
and obviously that's something that, you know, the listeners can go home and meditate on themselves, but there is some theory to that. There is some thought to that. I'm curious, is there something that you say to yourself on a daily basis, Bill, to like keep your morale up, to keep your outlook positive? Because trying to put out CDs, writing music, you know, being a musician, on top of that, like, you know, truck driving, you know, making sure you have enough income to pay your bills can be heavy. So what do you say to yourself every day?
I just remind myself how lucky I am with all of it, because it's overwhelming. I spent yesterday. I kind of thank God that I'm broke down, because I spent yesterday trying to catch up on emails and Facebook. We've got the Mid American Truck Show coming up, and it's weighing me down right now because I've got 50 different people pulling me different directions. And bear in mind, none of them want to pay anything.
Of course.
And so you got to battle with that. You got to try to do this and keep some couth about you and not offend anybody. You're like, hey, I don't do this only for money, but I can't take a week off of work to do this for you and not make up some of that money. And so it's sad, but it kind of comes down to money. But if I can just get all of them to bust this up between them, we can make it a viable deal that don't cost nobody hardly anything.
I always
But
say
no,
it's always about an exchange. You know, if
yeah.
I'm giving you a service, it just so happens what you're giving back to me is money. But it has to be
Well,
equal. It has to be balanced.
it's like the deal with Tough Tested. They've been great to me, great people, great products. I love them to death. And of course, they'll send me product to give away and stuff. They put a lot of money into my CDs, but it's not about money with us. I get to brand with a worldwide brand.
Mm-hmm.
They advertise me, I advertise them, and it works great. Tom and Sam are great people. Minimizer the same way. And I believe in their products. I believe in the people behind the company, and that's the big thing with me. If I don't believe in the people, I'm not advertising your product. I don't care how good it is, because
Agreed.
I want to deal with people who are like me and like you. If they can't be honest with the public, be honest with themselves, I want no part of it, because
It's
that's
refreshing.
what will drag you down. If you hang out with a negative, you're going to get drugged down.
I totally agree. Okay, I have a big favor. Could you play us a little something?
What do you want to hear?
I don't know. Anything.
Oh,
You're just such an
I'll bet
amazing musician.
my guitar's laying over here. I bet I can. Let me find a pick here. I've got my arms sore because
You were
I
just
was
doing the
working
weight.
out with my stretch band. I use them stretch bands, and I'll get my arms so wore out with them things, and I've got a new set of them waiting on me at home.
Oh, good.
I don't know if I don't know how I put this thing on speaker, because it's probably not going to pick it up through this headphone. Let me see if I can switch this to speaker.
Up, turn it back on.
Okay, that muted the audio.
Is your headphone Bluetooth?
Yeah.
If you just turn it off, it'll go right to your computer then.
Oh, will it?
Yep. And then you'll be on the speaker and you'll hear me through your computer.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yep. It's
Okay.
good.
I don't think I can sing with that thing on my head anyway. Steel-toed red wings
Wear a faded Levi blue jeans and old red flannel shirt like his daddy wore. He sets his back for the ride and he stares out the windshield into the night and he wonders what he does it for. When he sees her picture on the tin-lit dashboard and the thoughts flood his mind, it's the only way he knows to give her the life she wants. Still hang on to his outlaw side. He's a settled type when he's at home, but give him the keys and he'll be gone, just doing what he does to get by. At home he's touching, loving, and feeling. Out here he's lying down a mountainside gate break screaming, truck driving, just doing what he does for love. That's why he trucks. Or something like that. That's my favorite song I've ever written out there.
I love it. I love it. That was fantastic. That was absolutely fantastic.
Yeah.
So any last words for listeners, Bill? Any last encouragement, anything that you could say to someone that's on here today? I always feel like, you know, everything happens for a reason. They happen to stumble across this interview. What would you want to say to them?
I just tell them to stay positive and look in the mirror once in a while and be proud of yourself. And I hate to use a joking term, but I go back to the old Saturday Night Live skit from the 70s and 80s with Stuart Smalley. And it was a joke, but he'd look in the mirror and he'd say, I'm good enough, I'm smart enough, and doggone it, people like me. But learn to believe that, seriously. I know that was a joke, but learn to believe it and learn to be proud of yourself. If you can be proud of yourself, you can project that to others.
I love it.
Without a level of arrogance. I think we all have a small level of arrogance by nature. Yeah. But
doing it from the heart. I love it. Bill, how can we find out about your music and how can we find out more about you?
BillWeaverMusic.com, iTunes, Google Play, Amazon. Just type Bill Weaver Music in on the web, and there's plenty of stuff that'll come up. So
I love it. I love it. And you're on social media, so you guys can find him on social media. Bill and I actually Chrome and Steel Radio, so he has his own show. And when are you on Chrome and Steel Radio?
Well, when am I supposed to be on?
I'm finding that same problem.
Thursday evenings at 7. That hasn't worked out here lately. I'm probably going to do a live show this evening, actually, and probably try to do another one tomorrow night, depending on how this truck works out. But I go live from there and from my personal page. We really like everybody to watch it on Chrome and Steel. We need to get the traffic over there. Mm-hmm. You're doing a great job on there, by the way. You're holding the whole thing together right now. You're the only one holding the door open to it.
Well, you know, it's all who you meet, and it's working together as a team. And I'm just really excited to be a part of Chrome and Steel Radio. Yeah. And I go back to the whole idea of it needs a little bit of some feminine in there. And not that I can't hold my own with the guys, but I think just it's such. If you guys haven't checked out Chrome and Steel Radio yet, go over chromeandsteelradio.com or find us on Facebook and YouTube. It's light-hearted listening. It's just, I'm talking about yoga and meditation and living a better life and pain relief and all, you name it, all sorts of stuff. And Bill, you're doing your thing and you're singing, and I mean, there's just so much. It's fun. It's so fun. They are fun pets. I mean, come on, guys.
That's the way we need to keep it. It's just fun, and we don't want no negative, no politics, no. Nothing where people argue, you know.
I agree. So, Bill, I'm so blessed and thankful to have you in my life. It's such a friendship that I can't wait to see continue to foster. And thank you for sharing your story and sharing some very personal things. But I think that, like you said, everybody's going through the same thing. It just looks a little bit different. And if we treat those people with respect and dignity and reach out our hand like we mean it, that could be the difference between them taking their life and not, or them going down a rabbit hole of no return and not. And I just really appreciate you sharing those things. And for the listeners out there, I want you to remember that no matter how hard it gets, never lose hope. Never lose hope. That I follow the philosophy, if you're alive, if you're breathing, there's purpose for you. And remember that every single day. I hope you enjoyed this interview, and until we see you next time, thank you guys so much. Bill, thank you so much.
Thank you, Hope. God bless you.
Bye now.
Bye-bye.